Well, hello and welcome to this week's episode that I named Not All Friendships Are Created Equal. So lately, because I just created a little mini course in this, I've been thinking a ton about female friendships. And I think a lot of this probably can apply to male friendships as well. But female friendships are really, really specific and particular. So let me start with a question. Have you ever had a friend who is always giving you backhanded compliments? I'll start with a little story, shall I? So it was 2002, and I was walking into a beautiful restaurant to have Sunday brunch with my girlfriends. We'd had a terrible winter that year. I had just cut 8 inches of yucky winter hair off my head. I had my little short do. I had little sandals on. I was so excited. And as I walk in, as I'm approaching the table, this person, I'll call her AB, that will be her name, says, "Oh my God, I can't believe you finally cut that hair. Your new do, it looks so, how should I say this, matronly." Do you know what matronly means? It would be the exact opposite of anything that I would want to feel in my early 30s, or any time for that matter. It's basically like saying you look like a librarian and not a sexy librarian or somebody's grandmother. I was so pissed. And I was like, "Oh, thanks, I don't even know, thanks, not even thanks." Now, AB was what I now know is she was a frenemy. So she was someone who was always very competitive with me, with what I was doing. She always found a way to put down whatever it is that I was doing. She would do it in a sneaky way though. So even the way she insulted my hair, she did it with a big smile on her face. So her words and what her face and her words didn't match. And I was like, "Oh, so weird." Obviously, listen, years later, clearly that person is no longer in my circle, but I find that a lot of my therapy clients that I've had in the groups that I run, women have difficulty with female friendships. So let's talk about why this is and what it is that you can do about it if you have frenemies in your life, if you have female friendships, if you're a woman, that make you sad, anxious, uncomfortable, obligated, that you dread spending time with, right? Shouldn't we not have people in our life that we dread spending time with? But sometimes that's the way it is. Most of my clients, so much of the time, my clients feel like they don't have a choice. They didn't know that they could just be like, "Yeah, I don't know. I'm not doing that." What I found is that when I used to have frenemies in my life, because I had 2 sets of friends. I had the same friends I've always had in my life some of them since I was 4 years old. Literally decades of friendship. There was 8 of us, and in high school we were called the Maywood 8 because that was the town we were from. So I had those people who I always knew. And not to say that there could never be bitchiness between us, but basically they were like my true blue friends. And then I would go out there into the world and I would be playing something out. I didn't know that, of course, at the time, right? I was in my 20s. What did I know? And I'm like, why am I always in these weird triangle situations with women? Why are people always mad at me, it seems like? Are people jealous of the other friends that I have in my life? And in therapy, I was able to figure out that I was playing out this unresolved triangle type experience in my family of origin. And so I didn't know that I was doing that. My parents got divorced, so I felt split loyalty. There's a whole thing, which we can get into later, about what you might be playing out in your life. But that was something that when I had the realization, it really changed my life because I stopped attracting these types of people. Because here's the thing. We only have 2 choices in life. We can either act things out or we can talk things out. So the things that you're unaware of, right? It's impossible because they're down here in your unconscious mind, your subconscious mind. How can you talk them out if you do not even know they exist, right? You can't. So you act them out because your healthy mind wants a resolution. You want a different ending to that. For me, with that split loyalty, I wanted everyone to be happy rather than feeling like I had this split loyalty. But without new skills, a new outcome is pretty unlikely, right? Right. So that's one thing to think about, is basically you in the mix, right? The second thing to think about is what types of friendships do we have where we find difficulty? So you have the friends that you've had all of your life. Sometimes Those are like the golden handcuff friends, I call them, but they're really historical handcuffs rather than golden, because you stay together only because you've always been friends. And so it's worthwhile to sort of do a little assessment, like an honest inventory about who are you friends with? Who do you allow in your VIP section? And why? And just because someone used to have a pass to the VIP section of your life, does it mean that they should still retain that pass forever and ever? Right? Once in a while, we got to look at that list and be like, should this person still be in here? I'm not sure. And hey, listen, that may sound really cold-blooded to some of you. But the reality is, if you don't do it, who will? Right? As I like to say, if not you, who? If not now, when? No one else will do it if it isn't you, right? It's your life. So it's your job to decide who gets to go in there. Another difficulty that can come up in friendships is if you're in a different life cycle, like a different part of life. Sometimes if your single girlfriend gets married and has kids and you don't, or the other way around, you're in this different space. And so can be really difficult because you may not want to. If you're the single one still, or you're married but don't have kids, you may not want to talk about kids 24/7, and your friend may not be able to stop herself from doing that, right? So that's another thing to think about. Lifestyle changes. Sometimes it's just simply that people move away, and trying to keep a long distance relationship, while it may work for some people, other people just don't want to do it. And then what about the fork in the road friendships, I call them, where it's like you are in this place and your life is going this way and their life is going another way, right? Things happen and you change. And sometimes you can still stay friends if you change. And other times, especially in the US, the super toxic and heated political climate that we have going on, normally, in the US, even people who were never political sort of are political now. And there is such polarization that I know that there are many friendships that have broken up. Like where it's something where you could just agree not to talk about politics, let's say 4 years ago, if you disagreed about Barack Obama. But now, with the current administration, there's a lot of people who they're like, no, I actually cannot be friends with you if you support what's happening, right? So those changes, those fork in the road friends, maybe that's where you just decide to agree to disagree and perhaps go your separate ways. And then you have the ABs of the world. You have the friends who are competitive with you secretly and not so secretly. Or maybe you're competitive with them, I don't know. But someone who something good happening for you feels like something bad happening to them. You know the friends I'm talking about? I know you do. So we don't really need those passive-aggressive relationships. Now, if it's a friendship that adds other value, you have a choice to try to have a conversation, to perhaps talk about it, right? To maybe bring it up, to say it hurts my feelings. But most of the time, we just do a weird dance where good things happen to us and we just don't tell those friends, right? We just don't tell them. Because a lot of the times, these two categories overlap, where those friends overlap with the category of friends who are like the best friends on planet Earth when your life is in the shitter. You know those friends? Who like are there in a disaster. They're there for you. They're going to hook you up. And they're the same exact ones who would definitely fly in the middle of the night to save you somewhere, right? They've got that syndrome. That when you are in a new relationship or have a great new job, they feel threatened, like you won't need them as much. And they kind of rain on your parade a little bit. Like, oh, I don't know. I don't think he's that great. Or that job. Oh, I don't know. I heard that business. Not doing good. I'm not sure if it's a good time to get involved with Wall Street or whatever, you know? So, yeah. And then you have the friends who you may not want really to have them in your life as much anymore because they're so negative. They're just negative. They're just complainers. Bitching all the time, have nothing else to talk about, complaining about their life, complaining about the weather, gossiping about other people. Like negative, negative, negative. And for those of you who have seen the episode that I did about how being around chronic complainers has the power to lower your IQ. I mean, not bad enough being a chronic complainer lowers your IQ. I mean, this is an actual scientific study done. So we'll in this post, I'll put a link to it. Like, who needs that? The life is depressing enough, and the world, there's enough negative crap to focus on. Hey man, I don't really want that in my life, do you? And here's the thing, you guys. Let me think if there's, before I get into this, was there any other type of friend that I wanted to... I mean, then of course just the selfish, self-centered one where all you do is listen, all they do is talk. Everything is at their convenience, at their leisure. So you live in Queens, they live in Brooklyn. They're like, meet in Brooklyn again, like that. And they're not good listeners, right? You're the designated listener and they're the designated talker. Not the best. Doesn't feel great. So what I was going to say about this is that let's talk about the nature of friends and let's talk about the nature of friendship, which is that this shit is voluntary. You don't have to be friends with anyone. So sometimes you need to really look and go, hey, this friendship is really toxic. I feel obligated. This person treats me like I'm their boyfriend rather than their friend. They're jealous of my other friends. I do not like that. And I don't have that in my life anymore. I did when I was younger, though. It's just so exhausting. Who wants to deal with that? I don't. And you shouldn't either. You are a free agent. You're allowed to do whatever you want. What are the key things in friendships that make them healthy? How about we talk about that? Yes, they're voluntary. We get it. But there's got to be a certain level of positivity. Right? There's got to be a certain level of holding each other in high esteem. There's got to be showing up, a certain amount of consistency. Not someone who once in a while shows up and then once in a while goes missing for a year, right? That isn't a good friend. And then the last thing is mutual vulnerability, meaning it's not always them talking, you listening, or the other way around, because you might be that person in the mix. I don't know. But there's got to be mutuality, a mutual sharing, which is a mutual vulnerability, because this is what intimate relationships and friendships are built on. It can't just be one person holding all the space for the other person to be vulnerable, right? That is imbalance. And there are specific reasons why we end up in relationships like that. Trust me. There's a whole thing that I do with clients around this. So it's a tool that I've created so that you can identify what you're repeating from the past so that you can stop and build a high vibe tribe. Because you deserve to have relationships in your life that lift you up. I don't know what I would do without my female friendships. I am as invested in them as I am my marriage, probably, honestly. I've had those same friends, and I have new friends too that I'm super devoted to. But the joy, the satisfaction, the fun that I have in those relationships is what makes me want to keep doing it. So if this is interesting to you, if you think you might like to learn more about this, I've created a little mini workshop, a mini course workshop. So if you're listening to this on May 21st, which is when it's coming out, it is tomorrow night. I'm doing a 2-for-1 deal. So if you bring a pal, it's 2 for 1. If you are listening to this or watching this after the fact, don't worry. You can purchase this experience in the store on my website because we're recording everything, giving you a beautiful, beautiful workbook. So I would love to see you live on May 22nd. The year is 2018, just so you know, in case you're watching this a long time from now, which you might be. But don't worry about it. And if you'd like to do it, and you are watching it currently, but you can't make it, don't worry about it. We are recording it, and you can still purchase the course. So there'll be a link for you to get to the course page. So all the information, if you want to purchase it, I would love, love, love to see you there. So I hope that this was helpful to you. I'll put a little cheat sheet in here of the suggestions that I gave you in this episode. I hope I see many of you tomorrow night. And as always, take care of you.